Hi everyone, welcome to my Shoreline studio. I'm Sybil Muschik. Behind the camera is Joshua Block. Today we're looking at sunsets. Now sunsets are maybe sometimes a bit problematical because they are so colorful. And it's very hard for an artist not to get carried away and do gaudy. You don't want to do gaudy. So the way to tackle that is to paint with lots of contrast, and then your, really luminous colors and bright colors are going to be maybe taking a second seat and still, giving that punch to your composition. I have in front of me one of our photographs of one of the many sunsets we've taken. And as you can see, the colors are not totally vivid, but you get the feeling of sunset, you get lots of contrast, and that's what we're going to try to do today. Now I've got a couple of preliminary studies, just messing around with color and seeing, what we can do. We'll be working with brushes today and our Speedball oil printing inks. I've just sent for a bunch of them. Now, they're not quite as intense as Danielle Smith or Shiva, but they work pretty good. And we will, I've supplemented some Danielle Smith where I like the, I think my ultramarine blue is Danielle Smith. So just to give a little bit more of a punch. And this set comes with sort of a processed blue. It's somewhere between ultramarine and phthalo blue. But it doesn't have quite the tinting strength that you want, so we're just going to use some of the other paints as well. So we'll see how our Speedball prints work, and let's tackle a sunset. So starting off, I have put a sheet of paper on my gel plate already, and I have registered it, just taping it down on the side. We'll be flipping it back and forth. We're just going to roll on a little bit of background color, keeping it fairly pale. We will intensify it later on. And with oil printing inks, you have to roll it out for a while. And it becomes quite transparent, which is nice. I don't think we need to worry about adding burnt plate oil, which is it helps to thin down the paints if they're too thick. And we'll probably do the composition in thirds. So we'll have the blue on the top. A little bit more. Make sure your gel plate, this is my 8x10 gel plate, is nice and clean, and you can brayer off. Just have a sheet of paper beside me here, and I just roll it off to get most of the paint off. That's just exactly like you would use acrylic paint. Then for the next part, our really gaudy luminous paint, we're going to start with yellow. Keeping to a very limited palette here. We don't want a lot of color. The color we are using is going to be fairly intense, so less is more. We'll put the really brightest stuff beside here. We're going to extend it. I have a little bit of extender. It's clear, even though it looks sort of milky at this point. It just extends the paint a little bit. So we want a nice orange. You don't really want to add white at this point because it sort of makes it more milky looking and not so intense. And Josh will put up the photograph to show you. And we'll just use a little roller for that. So just looking at the consistency of it on the roller, so you keep, you know, rolling it out. And if you hear a wet snick, we've talked about this before, then you've got a little bit too much paint on the roller. There is a little bit of a snick when it's just right, but looking not too bad. Okay, let's try it. So I'm overlapping a little bit, that way you don't have a discrete line. And we probably need to get a little bit more paint on there. And this is just for the background, sort of it gives us placement. And back to our blue. You might have to roll back and forth a little bit just to get everything rolled out smoothly. Okay. There. We'll be over painting anyway, but at this point we just want to have that nice background. Now I'm seeing just a tiny bit of stuff here. Okay. Smoothness is the key here. And don't forget your edges when you're rubbing the back with whatever you're going to be using, your hands, a bare end like this one. Okay, we have a few little things there we can. So we're going to start with the landscape part of it first. So we have to mix a bit of color. I do have black in that set. Ordinarily I would probably be using burnt umber, but we can mix for that. So we're just going to mix it right into the blue here. And a little bit of the oil. The black, as you can see, is quite heavy. So we're just adding a little bit of burnt plate oil to make it more workable. And we'll add some of this orange. To it. Probably not going to pick up much of the blue anyway. This will give the trees and such a bit of a glow. Black is not always black. Black can be blue black, it can be orange black, it can be yellow black, it can be green black. Next time you're looking at black, have a look and see exactly what color it really is. I'm just going to outline this part of the lake. The landscape part is fairly level. It's sort of a field. And then the hills come up behind. And then over here is Melbourne Mountain. And my voice is a little rough today because it's very smoky out, and most of Melbourne is kind of obscured with the smoky haze. So keep your horizon line level. There's some willow bushes in the foreground. And because it's sunset, everything is in silhouette, so you don't see too much detail. We'll just hint at a few of those things. We can maybe add a few trees here in the background. Try and make the foreground as dark as you possibly can, because when you print it, it will fade out quite a bit. So we're just putting abstract-y details. This whole thing is very good. They're going to be very impressionistic. The point is to try and get the color to some degree, with some intensity, but not gaudiness. And vary your brush strokes, make it interesting. Now here comes the tricky part. In order to exactly, well, you won't be doing it exactly, but you'll be fairly close. Now, reflections are the same width. Okay. And there's a little bit of the light there, so we're just... And up to here, this is bigger. And that should give you the right size. Now, because we're working with paint that is sort of gluey and sticky, and you can work back and forth, so reflections are more sort of down like this. So just pull it down. If it doesn't quite agree, you can change this side. Reflections are usually slightly darker than what you're reflecting. It sometimes depends. At night, sometimes things are a little bit lighter on the lake than what you're seeing. So it depends on the light. But as a general rule, things are darker as a reflection. And you can sort of taper it out. Just stroke it. And then add your few details. There was a tree here. And a few here. Okay. Now we can print this, or we can wait for the cloud. So let's just wait for the clouds to get finished. Now the clouds are going to be a variety of colors, so we're just going to use what's here. Add the blue because it's quite dark, but it's a nice intense blue. Again, a little bit of burnt plate oil, a little bit of that. Okay, so now we're going to tackle clouds. Now remember, everything prints in reverse, so the cloud is going to be going this way when we print it. Okay. So we have a nice little cloud here behind the... Now you don't have to follow your, photograph slavishly. You can, make it up as you go along. Some things might be more interesting how you do it. This is just an exercise after all, and make it speak to you. And the little tiny clouds here, just to give perspective. Because we're dealing with a lot of brush strokes, you might want to just use your brush sideways, and then that will be a little less brushy looking. And then we do the sideways thing again. So again, we measure from the edge of the lake, our horizon line, and then our clouds start there. There's a few little guys there. And then it goes just above the tree line here. This isn't hard to do, it just takes a little bit of effort. Okay, so we have this one here, and I'll measure that as to where the top is, about there. And from there to there. And you're doing everything sort of like mirror image. So the flat part's on the bottom, and then the curvy areas are on the top. And this is all together. Now, if there were wind, of course, the reflection would be disturbed. So it's never ever going to be too accurate. So you can muck around with it a little bit. And there's some clouds up here. I'm smoothing it out a little bit. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm not trying to go for real accuracy. We're just trying to get our sunset colors. Okay, putting it back. Now we can print. Now it's really important to get those edges, especially with the tape on here, because it lifts the end of the paper a little bit. I'm just using a smooth cardstock. It's a bit coated. So not bad. Now the final step is to bring in the gaudy colors, and we're going to just roll that right over everything. We'll take a little interlude here, and I'm going to clean up so I have really, really bright color. And we're going to just sprayer it over every some of these bright areas. So this is the adventurous step. We're going to roll something really bright over top of the trees, a little bit into the top here, just above the trees. And then right over top of everything up to the clouds. And then try and feather it out a little bit at the edges here. Let's see how that prints. All right, a little bit more in here, I think. Maybe add a little bit more yellow. We want it as bright as possible. Okay. See, just I don't want a really sharp line here. That's okay. Let's see what happens. Nice thing about printmaking, it's always unpredictable. You do the best you can, and then. Well, for monotypes, if you're doing woodcut or etching or something like that, it's very controlled, and you don't really get a lot of... Ah, there we are. Okay. So let's... we're just going to shore up the blacks a little bit more. And I'm going to do it directly on the work because we've printed so much, I'm not sure where that line is anymore. So what you can do is you go back and forth. And that way you'll get your intense darks. Don't forget, everything is fair game when you're doing this kind of work. And partly of the reflection as well. Yes, okay, now we have work a little bit more with this. Just to soften it a little bit. Okay. So there you are. We have a sunset. It's not gaudy. We have the light. We have those dramatic clouds in the sky as a reflection. You've learned a little bit how to do reflections, and certainly worth trying this exercise and see how you do. Be sure to post what you're doing on my Facebook page, Shoreline Studio Facebook page. Leave me a comment. Be sure to like and subscribe. We can bring you lots more content as a result. So take care of yourselves and your families, and don't forget to be kind to one another. Bye for now.